We live? Mm-hmm. Well, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you are in the world. It is I. First of all, I'd like to say welcome.
That was smoothly
Welcome
entered.
to World Vision for Christ London, WVfC London. My name's Aaron. This is Abigail. We are
Hi.
part of the leadership team at Paragon Chapel. And if you're new here, then we'd like to say thank you for joining us. We want to say welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to share with you from God's Word and from our conversation and so forth. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you feel that this can be something of use to you. And if you do subscribe, please switch on notifications to alert you when new video material goes up, because that's always a good thing. So please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're going to have a couple of topics that we'll try to talk with each other tonight, but also if you can get involved in the chat, then please do. You know, it's always good to have feedback. Normally we have regular church on Saturday evenings, and to not have a crowd to talk to.
But we got someone already. Hi.
Hello to you, that person. So we're trying to learn some new I am trying to learn some new things rather than just talking. Abigail is normally on the chat anyway. So this is a new thing and hopefully be a good thing. So I reckon let's pray.
Okay.
And then we will start our meeting off. All right? Our Father, we thank you that we have another opportunity to be in this building. We thank you even for the building that we have right now. We thank you for the chance that we have to go over the internet to share some thoughts about your word and about who you are and your effect on people's lives. We ask right now that you'll inspire us on everything that we say and everything that we do, on all the people that may be listening, that you will inspire our minds and our hearts, that we can learn something and be changed for the better in response to this tonight. Help us to feed off each other as we also feed off you, and help us to be an encouragement to somebody this evening. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So what do you want to talk about?
Well, you got a couple of words written down there.
I got a couple of words.
First of all, we should play lockdown bingo, I think. So what are some words that we've all been hearing? Put it in the comments below.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
That
We
would.
got an amen for lockdown bingo. How very interesting.
Right. So one of the ones I've claimed for myself personally is Quarren Queen.
Quarren Queen.
Quarren Queen. Because I am
Go on.
the queen, obviously.
That's
mine.
I think we were going to have some people in our regular.
If anybody wants to
disagree with that title,
well, that's fine. We can battle for the throne of Quarren Queen. What else have we been hearing going around? Banana bread. Let's be honest. We've seen enough banana breads.
What?
If anybody's on social media, come on.
Oh.
Everyone's cooking banana bread.
Okay, this is not my realm.
Okay, so what are some of the things that you've been hearing flying around? Save that one till last.
Yes, of course. No, the ones that I've been noticing more than anything else is at home DIY stuff.
At home DIY stuff.
So,
okay, there's a lot of that going on.
And what makes your work from home situation better or worse? That's what.
Okay,
I've
so productivity
seen
stuff.
But that's probably because my feeds.
We've seen any of our friends wearing hats because they can't get to the hairdressers or the barbers.
Okay.
There's been a little bit of that.
Okay, so one of my neighbours quite obviously wants to go to the barber. All right, fair enough. It's a challenge. I don't have that challenge. The less said about that, the better. Now, but what I saw was an afro that I have never seen this guy wear. It was this thick already.
Nice one.
Inside 4
I think
weeks.
the 70s are making a comeback, whether they want it or not. They're coming back.
Brother Roach is ahead of his game.
So, yes. Anybody that has been hearing, we've got somebody in the comments using the term that we're going to talk about tonight. Well done, Miss Angie C.
What did you say? Where am I? Oh, the new normal.
Okay.
The term, the new normal.
But yeah, any other things that you've been hearing flying around during this lockdown time, let us know, because I think it could be quite entertaining what sticks out to different people.
Well, hashtag what sticks out to me in lockdown. That's not very catchy.
That's really not a hashtag that's going to take off.
That's a sentence.
That's a sentence.
That's why it's catchy, because it's completely saying
I've already forgotten what you said.
See, that's terrible. Okay, our topics. And Angela actually has already mentioned it. It is, number one is the new normal, which everybody's been saying it. And I actually heard somebody complain recently on another video where they were saying they've been hearing people saying so often, I just want things to get back to normal. And the reality is they're not going to ever get back to what we think is normal from the past. It's not quite... See,
the thing is, it's hard to clarify what normal is.
Well...
Because what is normal? Life changes, life has ups and downs anyway.
Right.
So, I don't know, what do we consider normal? And what one person considers normal is definitely not normal to somebody else.
The less said about that, maybe the safer. But
we have a lot of variety in our lives.
Yeah. So the new normal it's a dangerous term. It's a bit. This is what I was thinking. Okay, number one, tonight when we're talking about the new normal, actually is not about COVID from my point of view. All right, I don't.
We hear enough about COVID.
We hear enough.
Okay, everywhere.
Everywhere. So this, I mean, we could call this the anti-COVID video. Or whatever, right? This is not meant to be
I don't think we should name it that. People will be like, they've got the cure. Jesus.
Hashtag, they've got the cure. That's catchy. But we have got the cure, which is the Lord. So it's not about COVID and it's not about lockdown, but actually it's about what happens later and embracing, I suppose, what is that new normal. And there's biblical precedent for these kind of things. We're going to get to that in a minute. And the second topic that I want to try to approach, which is difficult, is a question, especially in the chat room. It's nice that you're lively tonight. Please be lively. This is the second question, or the second topic. What makes us respond to a message or a sermon? This is a hard one.
It's a hard one.
So that's why you say it now. What you've got, everyone, on the chat room, what you've got right now is the topic early, so you can type it in.
Yeah.
You've got a built-in notepad for the chat room, and you can express yourself. Now, if you want to get involved and something really sweets you, then say amen.
Yeah.
Right?
But also, different things would trigger a response in different
Exactly.
people. So it would be really interesting to see what makes you respond. And if you can leave that in the comments, we can all just see how we're all different.
Yeah.
Because what might trigger reaction in you might not trigger reaction in me.
Exactly. So that's number one, we're looking at hashtag new normal. And number two, we're trying to look at or think about what makes us respond to a message or a sermon. So in thinking about the new normal, I don't even like the phrase, if I'm honest. I'd like to have something different, but I don't have a different couple of
I think
words.
maybe what is normal? Like, I don't know. Why do we need to say the new normal? Because what is normal?
That's true. That's true. I mean, in the end, lives are always adjusting.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, growing up, Mum was always, we were like, oh, this is not normal. Okay, we've had a very church upbringing. Very different to some of our friends, okay? And so this isn't normal was quite a phrase that we would use.
This is not normal, but at the same time...
Mum would often remind us what is normal, or maybe everyone else is subnormal, or what we consider abnormal is actually what should be normal. So...
But let's say what when we were growing up that things were a bit odd compared to the rest of the world.
Not in a
compared
bad
to the
way,
rest of the
though.
world, all right?
Not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way. But what was considered odd then is my advantage now.
Yeah. Okay.
You know.
Because the difference is, so strengths and weaknesses and
Right.
whatever.
And
yeah,
things
absolutely.
that have developed certainly in both of us, right? There are things that we've been exposed to and that we've been involved in that have definitely improved our lives in ways that we wouldn't have seen back then, but now we can see it. So the odd from before, the unusual, that's a better word than normal. The unusual back then is now my advantage right now.
Yeah.
I think.
So when we say the new normal, what are we actually talking about?
The thing that we're going to be going into when we're going into it. Because right now, it's just not about lockdown. It isn't. I think that it's about how we respond to our environment, maybe.
Yeah.
You know? So, like, for example, as we were discussing a minute ago, I think that there is change taking place in my environment that is forcing me to adjust. It's not necessarily right now that I feel so different because of lockdown. I don't, not really. Lockdown plays into my personality traits. I like being indoors. I like being at home. I'm a home person. I don't care. You can all say what you like. I like being at home. It's cool.
Oh, contrast. It's a struggle for me.
There you go. There you go. So it's different. It is an advantage or a disadvantage or whatever. But for me, this lockdown is fine for me. But my environment around me, because of the things that I normally do, because of, say, for example, the work that I normally do and where I do it, that's not so available to me now. Now I have to change my life a little bit. So it's about balance, isn't it? Because on one hand, we can surely we can think, oh, well, life is completely different, da-da-da-da. Or we can, on the other hand, go the other extreme and say life is completely the same. We're going back to normal. That's not going to happen. Not like that. So
I think there's going to, like, during this lockdown, one thing that I've had a lot of more time maybe to reflect.
Okay. Because
I'm not as busy. And so one thing, are we going to, like, go in now? We're going to enter.
Into what?
This proper discussion time now.
We are already
right.
in it.
Okay. So one thing that I've been thinking about, which I was mentioning to you earlier, is it's made me reflect on what impact I have on people's lives.
Okay.
And what impact people have on me. Mm-hmm. And so one big thing that I've been thinking about during this time is just impact on each other. Mm-hmm. Who do you really miss? Why do you miss them? And like, do they really miss you?
That's a guilt trip right there, isn't it?
No, but like maybe we should be more impactful in the lives of each other. I mean, obviously we all want to be gathered together and enjoy each other's company. Mm-hmm. We want to have the freedom to do what we would like to do, of course. But really from maybe it's quite a harsh reality point of view, what impact have we gained or lost from each other during this lockdown?
Well, depending on...
So that is one thing for me during this lockdown. I've been quite reflective on that point of it, because there are people that you really miss with a pain in your heart. You're like, oh, I really miss that person. Yeah. And there's others that you just miss with a passing thought. Like, oh, it'd be really nice to see them. But yet nothing is lost from that relationship.
That does rather reveal where you were before then.
Exactly. And it's made me think, did I have that like small of an impact with them and them with me, that their absence from my life has not made much of a difference? And it's made me really think, do people think that about me as well? Well, how am I impacting people's lives around me? Mm-hmm. Or the fact that I'm not around has made no impact? Mm-hmm. So it's just made me think, after lockdown, maybe that is one thing I really need to work on, investing more in people and having more of a proper impact, not just a hello, goodbye kind of relationship, but actually a real interest in them and their welfare and their future, so that if we're not with each other, there actually is that sense of loss because we've got such a strong bond. Does that make sense?
That is a good. I mean, that's so much higher than what have been thinking about.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it's all right. It's good. It's good. See, this is the thing. We're supposed to build each other up, or tell each other where we're wrong. So,
all right. Off air, please.
Well, for me, it's the thing that I've been thinking about while we're in this time is literally, how am I managing my time? Yeah. Because that is money can come and go. It mostly seems to go, but money can come and go. Relationships, they could be fleeting, but you can also build them back. But the one thing that we don't get more of is time. And if we're not using it's a luxury to have time, and on lockdown, feel like I have so much less time because of the way things are. I don't have, for example, for me, I don't have my commute time, which was my devotion time.
Yeah.
And now, to me, the half an hour or so of driving in and driving out, I've lost an hour of day.
It's hard to find it at a different time.
Devotion.
Yeah.
And, for me, that is a big deal that I can't even, it's a challenge to me, let's put it that way, that I am having to reassess all my other time and see where I'm not dealing with it properly. And it is really a guilt thing. Because,
but we can often have that pressure that we have to be always doing.
Yeah, or you allow, this is another environmental thing, where you allow people to force you to get to do.
Yeah, because you've got all this time on your hands now. Right. You're not going to work, are you? So you must be able to fit this in and fit that in.
Or you snatch bits of work here and there
and
there.
So. Or you put the pressure on yourself, where that thing that I've been putting off because I've been too busy, now you're kind of putting the pressure on yourself to do that and to do that and to do that. Yeah. Let's decorate the house. Let's learn a new language. Let me learn how to play the keyboard. Hopefully not the trumpet, especially if you live in an apartment, because that's not going to be fun for your neighbors. Yeah. So we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves for all of that long list of 20 things that we've not been doing. Now we've got all this time on our hands. We should be doing them. And so you can kind of fill that void with a ton of other stuff.
Right. And that is not relaxing into the Lord, is it?
Absolutely not. It's just filling that other time with something else.
Yeah. All it is distraction.
Yeah.
Well, no, not 100%.
No, some of it is
great.
Yeah, but
it can... Well,
it can be sacrificing the best for something that is good.
Yeah.
And we can sometimes numb the absence of normality by filling all of that time with other things.
Yes. So for example, like you just said, if we're sacrificing the good, the best to just put the good. And we're very good, people can be very good at forcing ourselves to almost to wink at ourselves, to let ourselves off the hook. I'm going to learn to do this thing so that when we do get back to church like normal, then I can use it in ministry, for example. And it's just not necessarily true. You might, but come on.
I mean, we can make excuses. It just is a lot of excuses going around.
But then, so the new normal, the paradigms that... the things that I wanted to bring up to say about paradigms, I've got them listed here, which we can quickly look at. But these are drastic changes, you see. I mean...
So, by the way, we have got some interesting responses. Sorry to interrupt you. But some interesting responses to the question about what makes us respond to a sermon. Do we want to share those later?
Later.
We'll
go back.
Keep adding your comments, guys. We've got quite a few there. I'll go back and we'll read them out.
A nice responsive room tonight, I have to say.
Yeah, so just keep putting your ways in which you respond to a sermon. Keep listing that and we'll discuss them later, yeah?
I mean, so for example, these are the examples that I listed out when Abigail and I were preparing this. And they are huge, drastic changes, big ones. And I'll get to this in a second then. So number one, Paul's conversion. He went from attacking the church, literally slaying people, literally, and Christians running scared, to the conversion time,
and his was a dramatic time.
Right?
Being blinded. Imagine if we all got converted by being blind first.
I mean...
No thanks.
It's the goodness of God that brings people to repentance, right? But that's a challenge.
That's a challenge.
Because that's a harshness of God and then the goodness of God.
Yeah, but he probably needed something so strong.
Fierce, because tradition. Yeah. He would have been in the gang that Jesus would have been. Yeah.
So his was a massive shift. Something very dramatic happened to cause his conversion.
So, yeah. And this is, so you've got that, but also, so you've got Paul's conversion, he's gone from attacking the church to teaching the church. That's a hard one for that's a hard one for the people in the church.
Absolutely.
To deal with.
I mean, let's be honest. In real human terms, if you've got somebody that's been attacking you for a long time, and now suddenly it's like they want to be your friend, you're going to be suspicious, aren't you? And you would probably think, is he just trying to set us up? You can understand why people would be a bit concerned.
Yeah. So you've got Paul's conversion. That's number 1 on my list. Number 2, Noah's Ark. That's a big change.
Big change.
Big change.
In the world, not just an individual.
Exactly. That's a worldwide change.
Yes.
Right? Then you've got Gideon and his story. He's doing things in secret. He's doing a little job here and there, but he's thinking the right thoughts. So then God gets involved with his thinking and uses him as the tool to make a big change in the nation. Not worldwide that time, nation. Then Moses and the 10 Commandments, that is too big for right now. So we'll save that for next time. And then the big one, which I mentioned, I think, last week, which was at Easter time, Jesus and the life that he lived, the death that he died in, and the resurrection, and the temple's curtain being rent. That is a paradigm shift right there. That's a change. A paradigm shift, for anyone that doesn't really realize, is a thing that changes the landscape from what it was yesterday to the thing that it is today. The easy one for me, because I'm a nerd, is the iPhone. All smartphones had looked a certain kind of way before. They thought they were smart. Then the iPhone came on the scene in 2007, and then what happened? Every other phone copied the iPhone. So that is a good example how something happened then, and then it changes the way things go forward from then. Okay? That's what a paradigm shift is. So for Jesus, the one was, you can go straight to God. There is not that separation.
Yeah.
The sacrifices that were necessary before were no longer necessary.
Yeah. You don't have to go to a temple. You don't have to fetch an animal. We've had the perfect lamb slain.
Exactly.
So
that's the topic can be massive if we were able to go through it all. It's difficult to go through it all.
But I mean, there's tons of Bible characters we can all think of where they have had a moment and that caused a change in the trajectory of their life.
Right.
Absolutely.
A smaller one, right? I think it's Hannah who gave birth to Samuel, right? For her normal, here's a good one. Her normal was to go to pray and pray for a long time until the priest at the time took notice eventually and then proclaimed a thing over her, which then she did conceive and gave Samuel. And that eventually, you look 2 or 3 steps down the line, then Samuel is changing the landscape in the nation. But really, that was, in her life, that was a big change, but subtle really, because she managed to eventually have a baby.
Yeah.
And the gratefulness that she displayed was...
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even something that would be seen as positive. Like if we look at the life of Peter, after he denied Christ, and then he realized Christ still accepted him. So his negative thing, God used it in a positive way, and that was his moment of shift.
Can you imagine the relief on the guy?
Yeah, because I mean that is the mercy of God. And once he realized that even though I've done this thing, God still accepts me, God still loves me, that must have caused a massive shift in his life, in his ministry, in his thinking. So that thing that would have been seen as quite a negative, God used that to show his mercy and his love, and used that to change
for anybody,
the shift of his life.
If anybody thinks that they themselves that they are either unlovable or that nobody loves them, look at that little example. It's only about 3 verses long, but in the end, wow, what a thing. Really,
if we think about the forgiveness and the love of God, I read something this week and it was talking about how the father of the prodigal son, probably every day he was going out and looking out of his house, just longing for his son to come. And Christ is there every day looking for us to come running to him. It's so tender and so gracious that every day he is there waiting, just as that father was waiting for his son. And as soon as his son made that move, the father ran down and embraced him and kissed him. And if we think of that from God's point of view, he's there looking at the world like, I love you, please come, please come. Every day he's going out looking for his people to come to him. What a tender thing.
I mean, the Eastern or the Middle Eastern way of looking at that is the son is supposed to come in to the house first and go seek out the father for the forgiveness. So can you imagine how different that must have been when Jesus is telling the story?
Yeah.
And the people would be used to the bit where, so then the son comes in and then he holds on to his father's feet and begs for forgiveness. And then they hear
the father
runs to see him.
Yeah. But
shocking.
I just think, really, if you imagine the father's heart every day searching for his son, going out looking for his son, in my head, I've got quite a visual mind, obviously. I can just see him going out of his house. In my mind, he's on a hill. Obviously. I don't know why. So he can see everywhere. Just going out every day looking for his son to come. And that one moment, I mean, he may have been at the end of his tethering. He might be thinking he's never going to come. I'm not going to keep doing this forever. I don't know. God obviously wouldn't be like that. But from my mind, as a father, maybe he went out every day doing this thing.
Yeah.
And can you imagine on the horizon seeing your son coming?
I mean, that would be such a mingle, because he'd be thinking, oh, what a state this guy's in, but he's back.
I don't even know if he would have cared about the state that he's in. So if we can see that from such a human point of view, of a father's rejoicing at a son returning home, think of that from God's point of view.
Well, doesn't he say about going after the one sheep? You've got 99 more.
You stole my thoughts, man. I was going there next. It wasn't the sheep that was trying to get back to the fold. No. It was the shepherd that went searching for that sheep.
But you see, I've got 100, right? Got 100.
He could easily say, I got 99, it's okay.
More you can keep. I've got lots of change.
Yeah.
But
also, he could have said, well, that sheep should have stayed with the others. Yeah. He shouldn't have got lost. He shouldn't have gone off on his own way.
But then he goes to find it.
He goes. It's not the sheep coming for him. He goes and seeks that sheep and carries him home. God is tender.
It's very...
It's just a tender...
It hits you. If you allow it to, it hits you.
It should hit us. If we can put so much compassion and at this moment, we've got so many stories floating around of all of this, be kind and care for and clap for the NHS and all of that kind of stuff. If we can put so much empathy on a human level, let's elevate that and think all that we're feeling, God feels that in such a magnified way towards humanity. If we can have that compassion for the nurses that are in the hospitals and risking their lives, think about what God sees when he looks across the whole of humanity and sees us all with that tender fatherly love towards mankind.
I mean, how would we take that thought, right?
We've gone off topic.
I know. Well, I'm trying to bring it back. But how would we take that thought and apply it to whatever is coming next? Because that is a higher thought, obviously, literally higher, because you said, imagine what God is thinking and looking down, etc. But if we were to try to think about on that level God's love for people, which he displayed again and again and again, how do we bring that concept, that knowledge, into whatever is coming next? Because, for example, we're not able to go and meet people. We're not able to even shake hands hardly. If you're not in the household of someone, I'm not supposed to touch you. Right?
We haven't touched.
We haven't. Social distancing, even on camera. But how would we take that concept and give it to others? You're not meeting people, you see.
Yeah, but maybe for too long we've relied on contact, like one-to-one contact like this. I do believe that there is so much power in one-to-one human contact.
Definitely.
I'm not going to step away from that at all. I believe human contact and one-to-one relationships are very vital for the propagation of
because you're there to be God's hand extended.
Yeah.
So,
however, this is a great time for us to be creative in how we reach out to people. And there's a phrase that I heard many years ago and it stuck with me. And the phrase is, love God in front of people and love people in front of God.
That's nice.
I don't know who said it. If anybody knows, you can quickly do a Google search. It might be Mother Teresa, I'm not sure. But If anybody wants to search, it's love God in front of people and love people in front of God. Unless I'm slightly getting it wrong. I did read it years ago. But that really struck a chord with me because we can be so one or the other. Mm-hmm. We love God so much and we have to just all be God-minded that we have no interaction with people.
Yeah.
Or we can be the other way where we're so people-minded that we don't bring God into the situation.
We see that we're coming back to balance then, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right? So we're supposed to be in touch with God and in touch with people. That's balance right there. We're supposed to have a foot in the past, kind of, because the reality is we have to remember where we're coming from to direct us properly wherever we're going. But you need that balance. You can't just say, right, well, the past is the past, and then Hakuna Matata, and then that's it. If I were to go doof and hit you, literally like I have in the film, it doesn't matter, it's in the past. Of course it matters. You still got the pain from the hit.
Yeah.
But we have to have a balance of in the past and the future. We have to have the balance of touching God and touching man. Our life is meant to be in balance, and yet we're supposed to adjust. I read a book one time, and the author, it doesn't matter what the book is about, but the author paid special attention to goldfish, because have you ever looked when you're walking through a train station? I feel that this makes sense. Have you ever when you're walking through a train station, you've got all the people coming at you from different directions. You make these big moves to get people out of the way.
Especially nowadays, we make even bigger moves.
True. I hadn't thought about that part. But, in normal life, right? And what happens is you make this big show and dance to get out of people's way. Oh, excuse me, right? What happens with a goldfish is they are almost headbutt each other. And in the last moment, they just smoothly glide past. No big deal. They just moved, right? And it's a kind of a last minute but smooth adjustment. And that's where I think that we're going to have to, like if we were to ride a skateboard or a unicycle or something, you have to make these adjustments all the time and yet be in balance.
I think balance is very important.
Yeah,
definitely. And maybe this time is helping us to work out that balance. Maybe we've been so far one way, and now this lockdown is forcing people to
reprioritize.
Yeah, like to refocus, to reset, to rethink. And then we hope that it will bring out a better balance of things once we go back to the normal, whatever normal is going to be.
Exactly.
Because, maybe people were too obsessed with work and now they're forced to spend time with their family. And so maybe they will realize, what are my values really here? And then they will come out of lockdown valuing their family and not putting as much value in their work, for example. That's just like one example. We do need that balance of God and man. We need to be able to link the two together, where we touching the hand of God and touching the hand of man, and we're that link that people need.
Because I think that for some people, like myself included, my circle is quite small, right? If 100 people look at this video, I have reached more people, as in my face has been in front of more people in one little video than I get through in maybe a week of regular normal life, because my world is quite small. So then how do I adjust knowing that could become a regular thing for me? I don't mean, for a year or something, I've been at the mic, at the pulpit and saying things, and people seem to like it in church, and that's great. But then what about the wider world? Because it can't just be for the people in the church. It has to be for wider, doesn't it? So then, we need to have a bigger worldview. So, we're going to get to our second topic.
Which is this one?
Which is the second one.
Ooh.
Right.
Guys, now it's your time to shine.
So,
quickly put your comments now.
Going back, repeating our question, what makes us respond to a message? I will go first, if that's okay, because I have been thinking about it for a bit longer.
Okay.
All right.
And then I'll add my bit, maybe, and then we'll read all of y'all.
Well, the thing...
There's no right or wrong answers, guys, by the way. Just...
Oh, classic teacherism. There's always potential for a wrong answer, okay? Come on.
I don't know. No, in this question, is there? Is there really a wrong answer?
I don't know. Maybe not. But 2 and 2 is 18. That's the wrong answer. Oh, terrible. Anyway, so what makes me respond to a message? I'm going to give you a classic. No, I'm actually not, because I want to save that for next time. All right.
Tuning next week.
Tuning next time for what I really want to share right now. But I'll give you this one. A sermon could be happening for X amount of time, an hour and a half, whatever. I need something that will cut across my interest. Okay? So let's say, for example, it doesn't have to be my current interest. It just has to be something that sort of reaches my level of nerd for me, right? So when we look at the scripture, for me, when we look at the scripture, I am attracted to the arrangement of the words and the commas and the grammar and all of that. I like that because it forces me to think about how or what the sentence is really saying. That is what I mean about my nerd thing, okay?
All right.
So when I'm listening, let's be honest, we can trail off. Let's be honest with ourselves. We cannot always be. We be in church, but you're not listening.
The thing is that you're
can wash over you,
yeah,
right?
you're passive, really. The person doing the
Right.
speaking is the active one, of course.
So when the time comes that something hits me, what normally happens is either I don't necessarily agree with it, or it's something that cuts across me and it's sort of like, well, does my life live up to that? Then I have to take it back and with me. And then I think about it a bit, and that's what changes me, I think.
Okay.
So then what convinces me is not necessarily I'm convincing myself, but rather I've had a bit of time to think about the thing so that I don't normally make the change, whatever it is, there and then.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair because we need time to process.
Yeah, well,
There's
sometimes people can just be in straight away, but I don't know
I would
that
say that's
myself.
usually when there's been a foundation of something prior, and then it comes to that point of like this is the point of change.
Peak and then,
and that's usually based whether people are like conscious or not, but it's usually based on other little steps, maybe.
Even if those other steps are not conscious, you see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
I could think that.
Yeah.
Go on then, your turn.
Okay, so what makes me respond to a sermon is
or message.
Have to I think there's different things for me because sometimes if you mean respond by go away and start researching. Okay, I don't know if that's a response. That is a response. And the thing that would make me go and start researching, if I'm being completely honest, is when I don't agree with something that somebody said. And I want to back up my point or find out if they were being like, if they were right, okay, fair enough. Or if I was to challenge them on it, would I be able to defend my point of view? So that is one thing, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily a heart change. That's more of like maybe the rebel in me. I don't agree with that. I'm going to find out why you're wrong or if I'm wrong. But hopefully why you're wrong. So that would be a response in a research kind of way.
Yeah, but then are you able, this is a question for everyone, but Abigail's the only one here, so are you able to adjust your thinking to what you found out is now true, where you were wrong or you weren't?
It would take me a bit of time to unthink what I'm thinking, if I'm being honest, because if it is something that is quite ingrained in my mindset, then it would take a bit of time and I would want to do quite a bit of like research. I do it with news items as well. It's not just to do with like sermons, but if something just doesn't feel right about something, I would like to go away and research from different aspects so I get a different points of view.
So you don't just follow your built-in instinct on it.
That might be the trigger.
Right.
But then I would have to like find out, because I know I don't know everything. Obviously, I know shock horror. I don't know everything. Oh my goodness. So, and then, just to find out, but that would be more of a head response more than a heart response. I think for a heart response, as you said earlier about a big world view, and it's like, if I start to think like quite big-minded that we have the opportunity to make such a difference in the world, I want to be part of that action.
So then something...
I don't like missing out on fun things. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay.
So I don't like missing out on fun things. And if something happens and I wasn't around for it, then I'm like gutted. So I don't want there to be these big changes in the world.
Oh, please don't do something fun if I'm not there. Just be boring.
It's a real mindset. I'm sorry. It's true. I've actually told people don't have fun because I'm not able to go. Selfish. I know. Today is a day of confession. I know, obviously. I don't know everything and I can be selfish. So, hello. Welcome to reality. My family back home are probably like, yeah, she's right.
And no, we'd say something different.
Anyway, so to form a heart reaction rather than a head reaction, I want to be part of what's going on and I want to join in that thing, that dynamic thing, something that is maybe out of the ordinary, something that is going to cause a shift or a change. I like action, and if I want to be part of that action, that's the thing that is going to trigger my heart to be like, you know what, get up, get moving, do something, get involved here, because I don't want to miss out on something cool. And really, if we look at what God's got planned for life is cool. I don't want to miss out on that. So
fair, it's fair. Yeah. I mean, so then if you were to hear something, this is what I'm talking about, right? So what you just said is your personal version of being a nerd, right? If something in what somebody's saying feeds into that particular category, you're awake and listening to it. And that's what happens with me. Yeah. I think when it feeds into, I mean, I think someone here said, it was about to do with maths in the Bible, I think is what someone read. Here we go. In relation to the grammar, the equations and mathematics of the Bible, and getting to know the results to the equation, then what I said earlier in the chat, which I missed, of course.
Which was, I think that person said something about, it could be something as simple as a change in the tone of someone's voice. So that can trigger them to pay a bit more attention, or a pause, or I think that's what it says. The speaker would say the thing, but in a different pitch or voice. That is what they're saying, that there would be a change in how the message is being presented. Like you were saying, sometimes we can be quite passively listening, but not really listening. And then maybe a change in the voice cause you to wake up. Can
you imagine? So look at me. No.
Do I have to?
No, look at me. Oh, you're so cold. Right, but if I say look at me, I'm looking at you. No, really look at me. Yeah. Right. Now you're actually paying attention, right? And it's that kind of thing where you have this next layer.
To be fair, even during a sermon, if suddenly you're there doing passive listening and then the speaker says, look at me, you're like...
You would be awake.
That must be for me. Or you're like, who's getting in trouble now? Because remember when we were kids, if dad did one of those claps, then you're like, okay, it's either me that's being naughty or someone else. So you are on high alert. So yeah, change of pitch. Yes, absolutely.
Do you know what? Okay, so... Do
you want to look at some others?
Yeah, while you're looking for one. There was a time when, this happens when you're a child, when pastor's saying something serious, but you know that it's directed at someone. This is when you're a kid now, so I feel less guilty about saying it. You know it's directed about someone, and you're trying to figure out who it is. Now you're paying attention. That's bad.
You're just hoping it's not you.
Yeah, well, you know it's not you because you couldn't have been at that level.
You just look for whose face is blushing, no?
No, because if I'm sitting at the back, I wouldn't know whose face it is, right? But you think, personality, no, doesn't work, right? That is so bad.
That's a bit naughty.
That is basically gossip from the pulpit to me, right? I was trying to figure things out from that. It's a bit naughty. That is naughty. But don't do that, okay? Don't do that.
Yeah, let it apply to yourself. And if it doesn't apply now, it may apply later. So that's what I always put it in the bank, because it may not be relevant to me now, but who knows what's going to happen in the future.
It's always for you, no matter when it is. It's for all the people all the time. Go on.
So somebody said here, sometimes it's an answer to a need. And I think I was going to bring that up earlier, that different stages of our lives, different things may trigger response.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so that's a really fair comment, that although you said one way that triggers you and I said one way that triggers me, different stages in our lives would trigger different things, would trigger response. So that's a nice comment there. That is an answer to a certain need. That's good. Somebody else said that it strikes a chord in their thinking. So maybe something that they've been meditating on previously. Yeah. And then the sermon that they're hearing kind of backs that up or goes into that same train of thought.
I mean, I remember one time at a prayer meeting and I don't want to misquote what happened, but I think this is the way it went. I prayed aloud, and then the leader of the prayer meeting later on sort of responded to my prayer, but then they started speaking in tongues. And then the interpretation of that came through, and mentioned my child. And it was actually about me. The interpretation said my child, right? That's, if I were to take that as given, which I do, then that's God speaking to me, calling me his child.
That's a moment.
That is a moment. And it's so easy. This is where where I want to sort of combine these two things together, where that's a moment for me, but I can put it aside, or I can ignore it, or I can, it becomes just normal, and then it becomes numb.
Yeah.
And so I think tonight's little session, I know this is, we've not opened the Bible, we have mentioned biblical things, obviously, but this is a different church service because, number one, people have had a chance to respond. That's a good thing. But it's also a warning or a caution. What makes us respond to a message and then something does, great, but then that becomes our normal, and sit back and,
what are we going to do with?
You know?
What are we going to do with it? So we've got here, it depends on the preparation of our hearts, somebody has mentioned in the comments. And
what was that?
it depends on the preparation of our hearts.
Yeah.
How we respond to certain things. And if we are filling our hearts and our minds with TikTok dances, or just me then, if we're filling our minds and our hearts with TikTok, or with the news, which is so negative, or we're obsessing over cleanliness and have you washed your hands and all of those things, if we're filling our minds and hearts with that, then maybe we're not very fertile ground for something to impact us. So that is something to mention. And they said here, this is so classic of that person, a damp cloth picks up more water than a completely dry one.
That's true.
Yeah. So we need to have our hearts in preparation to receive. Because sometimes we can put so much pressure on the speaker.
Definitely.
Like, it didn't touch me, or it didn't affect me, but was your heart in a right place to receive what was being said? Yeah. So I think, there's a lot of things being shared nowadays so much over the internet and through WhatsApp and everything. There is so much being shared. Mm-hmm. And we maybe need to, not all of it is beneficial. No. Not all of it is for you. Maybe it's good for somebody else. But let's make sure that our hearts are in the right place to receive what nuggets God may be trying to give to us.
I've got one for you. This came up this week and it's really hit me. Okay. Deborah showed me a video that was, again, video online. Everybody is putting stuff out now. But this was so interesting and it really impactful. And maybe, I'm not sure that this would round up tonight, but here we go. The person was speaking and they were talking, they were giving a testimony. And one of the things that was true to them when they came to become a Christian in the first place, it took a while because they had to progress on to even get to the point where they gave their commitment to the Lord. But it was the love that the church that they were going to was giving to them, right? Mm. And then they used this word instead of love, because love your enemy. That's a hard one, right? But then they said, value your enemy. Or value. Instead of using the word love, they used the word value. Now, this to me, that is one of those ones. Okay, that fits into my grammar and
it fits into the Paul and Saul situation.
Right? Because if you say, well, God so valued the world that he gave his only son, etc., etc., that little word value, because it's really hard to love your enemy, but as soon as you say the word value, now you can understand how that makes sense. You don't, your enemy is against you, and you don't necessarily want.
You're not going to buy them flowers and a box of chocolates.
You're not going to buy them flowers and hug them and everything.
Well, there may be a time to do that.
Maybe, but the reality is, if as soon as you say value your enemy, because they could be an enemy, that doesn't mean total annihilation needs to come to them. So when that little word value, that's an example for me.
And I think that is more like reality based. And what I was thinking earlier when we were talking about how do we show, like even after this whole lockdown business, how do we show the world God's love? And I would say valuing that thing, it's reality.
Yeah.
You know, I think one thing that people do respond to is reality. not just religious talk or whatever, but actual reality, actual concern and value. Like you said, we may not love every single person like with a love that we love our family or love that we love our friends.
Well,
but we can value them. That's a soul. That's a person. They've got a story and a history. They've got a final destination.
But if you look at it, right, the word value is so important here, because you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. You shall value. That means that God is the most important.
Yeah.
And that is so crucial. And there you go. For me, there you go, everyone. That is a new world for me. That little change there, that changes my life in a way. Just a little bit. It's a small adjustment, but that makes
if we can put that adjustment into real life, valuing people, valuing things, and live with that reality that everyone is valuable.
Yeah.
And every situation we go through, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant, is valuable in the rest of our story. If we can put that reality into our lives, of the value of all of these things, the value of lockdown, what is going to be the value of this afterwards?
It will have value.
It
does have value already.
And whether it's a painful value or like we're going to learn something from it. It may be painful for us at this time, but we can look back and gain from it. So, yeah, for me, that is actually quite an interesting one to take forward.
That gives you something to think about, right?
Yeah.
Not because, a big revelation or anything like that. That's just a tiny little thing.
For me, it's more realistic as well. Yeah, because sometimes love your enemies, love this. It can be a bit too religious.
It's so high up here.
Yeah, it's not reality.
Yeah.
And people respond to realness. That is one. Like, people do respond to reality. And if we can use that, the valuing, I think that is something that we can all work on. Yeah. It's going to be hard to go straight from nothing to complete love, of course. But value, we value loads of things. We value our shoes. We value our car. Things that we wouldn't say we love, but we do value them.
Yeah.
So if we can put that mindset into our existence.
And it's not that we're not sort of trying to water down the scripture at all. It's a case of, let's look at this from just another angle, just a slight move of our perspective.
Yeah.
And suddenly a whole new realm gets revealed to you. That's it. So
so what's the take home? The
take home is that, number one, let's not get complacent. It has only taken about 6 weeks, and people now think that what we're in is normal. Okay. It's true.
Yeah, but
the majority of people don't want this to end. I think,
to be fair, I think a lot of people just are so, I don't want to be rude, but a lot of people don't think for themselves, and they hear this slogan batting around, and then they just adopt it. And whether they've thought about it or not. I mean, how many people who are using the phrase new normal, if you ask them to describe normal, could they do that?
No. But not really. But what I mean is, a lot of people don't want to end lockdown.
But probably a lot of people have a lot of reasons for that.
Well, I think there's a fear thing. There's a laziness
there's a lot
thing,
of anxiety.
They're getting paid to stay at home.
Of course.
All of those things.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to it.
But then, for me, it's... to want this to continue too long is missing the opportunity. There's something afoot. There is something afoot.
There's always something afoot.
Oh, wow. It's true, though.
While we're on Earth, there's always something afoot.
What's the
the take home is what? First of all, what was our first topic? The new normal.
Yes.
So, what do you want people to think about with that?
When I was putting this together in my mind, I was sort of in the run-up for this whole time since the beginning of the year, with preparation for Easter, with the 40-day thing, all of that stuff. We prepare, get ready. Then suddenly, the legs get cut out from underneath you, and all this preparation that we're supposed to have been doing, and I do believe a lot of our guys were doing it. The thing that we were supposed to get prepared for didn't happen. Easter didn't happen like normal. What did happen? Video online.
But we don't know what happened in individual homes.
Exactly.
So
then the take
church
home,
is not a building.
That's true. The church should be the people.
It's the body. So yeah.
So what is the take home from this? I suppose that's a hard question.
But we talked about the shifts in people in history.
Yeah.
And if this is a shift that can change your trajectory of life,
that's right.
Then let's embrace this. We don't know how long it's going to last for, and we obviously don't want people to die and all of that obviously we don't want any of those things to be happening.
Of course not.
However, this is it is the reality now. We are in this situation. And if we can use this as a springboard to something, then great. Yeah. So maybe that's,
so it's
whatever is coming, let's not label it the new normal or whatever, but whatever is coming, let's just try to be as ready as we can.
And that just basically means prepare for adjustment. Like what we just did with value your enemy. Anybody that has never heard that before, and then they suddenly hear it and they're like, wow, that makes some kind of sense to me. That is a small adjustment in your life. And that is a good example.
Yeah.
So then that also fits with what makes us respond to a message. A tiny little nugget. Maybe there's been something that we've said. I mean, it's been quite a fun discussion, I think, where maybe something we've discussed or in the chat has been so on point that somebody's life has changed.
Yeah, it would be really nice if we could hear maybe some testimonies of people.
That would be great.
Of something that has affected you and caused some moment that caused a change in your life. That would be quite
brilliant. If you
interesting.
can do that.
I'm sure there will be such a variety of things that different people would respond to different things. So it would be really nice if we could hear some ways in which your life has been changed by something. That would be quite nice to hear.
I mean, to be honest, you can put your comment in the
actual
comment, not the chat,
not the live chat.
Comment, or send an email, or get on the WhatsApp or something.
Send us an email.
Communicate back and forth so that we go. Once it's written down, that implies, first of all, it implies that you've spent time to think about it, because you have to think in order to write. Number two, it's a record.
Yeah.
If something happens to me, and I was like, wow, that was a real big moment, and I never tell anybody about it, then I can just forget about it.
If we put that in Bible terms, if all of these characters didn't write down what happened,
well, then we wouldn't have scripture, would we?
Well, yeah, exactly. So, okay, but our stories are not going to be in the Bible. However, our stories could be somewhere else and could impact someone else. So it'll be really nice. And if you want to be anonymous, that's cool. Just make it anonymous. Send a letter. Send an email.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But it would be really nice to actually hear some stories of how God has moved in your life and what something maybe insignificant to other people caused a shift in your life. That would be quite nice to hear. Because it's just, we're all different and we all respond different ways. It would be nice to hear that kind of thing.
Exactly. And that's a challenge as well, because of course it means that if you're not going to do it anonymously, that's a challenge, because eventually you have to stick your neck out.
Yeah. But also it's a good time to reflect, because we can easily just get into the routine of God's changed my life and now I'm on my way to heaven. Great. But it's good to reflect and think back on what actually caused a shift. I know a time in my life, I don't want to go into all the details, but I was struggling with a certain thing for so many years. And there came a certain evening and I had such a strong battle in my mind over this thing. And at that point, I chose this answer. I don't want to go into the details because I will literally cry. But I chose this thing rather than that. And my life didn't change completely overnight. I'm not going to make any it wasn't that. But at that was a defining moment, because I chose this thing rather than that. And my life changed. Looking back, that was the moment that caused a change in my life. And nobody knew what was going on in my head or in my heart or in my mind. Nobody knew anything. But I know that at that moment, I made a choice about something.
Now you're still living with the results of it.
Yeah, and it was a struggle uphill. I'm not going to pretend that after that, His glory came down and life was all bright and shiny. No, it wasn't that. But I know at that point, I made a choice to do something and to not do something else. And that was a defining moment in my life, in my teens, that happened. And it seems insignificant probably to everybody else, but I know for me, that was such a moment. And I know someone must have been praying for me at that time, because the battle that I had, I could not have faced that battle on my own. I was on my own, but really it was a battle. And so I chose this thing instead of that. And my life changed. From that day forward, things slightly started getting better and better and better because of that moment. It's so vague. Probably nobody understands anything.
I know a bit.
However, however, I just want to say that it may be something insignificant to everybody else that has caused the change in you. And we all have different things that trigger responses in us. So your testimony is your testimony. And yeah.
But the thing is, as well, what you just said, right? Okay, so it's a bit vague because it has to be. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, that might have really nailed something home for somebody, right? Maybe not in the chat room. Maybe later on when a video gets played to them later on sometime. But your testimony, like you said, the testimony that you have is yours. Nobody else has that, and therefore, anybody that's watching, your testimony is of value. It is. When we were in the open airs and you say, well, go out and tell the people or something, each one of us is individuals. We have a chance to actually affect somebody around us. And like you just did, right, the effect that you have right now could be worldwide. Could be. So, let's take home some of that as well.
I think we've got a nice little comment here to end
I think so.
on. And it says, maybe as the church, we can start using our own quotes instead of quoting what the world is telling us. Yes, let's get over the mainstream fake news business, guys. And it's saying, let's say what God says. And it may even catch on.
Well, apparently there's people that are looking up more often now than they have been for a while.
Yep. So let's start changing the narrative of society.
Yeah, I think so.
Let us be the defining voice that is going to determine what is happening next. Mm-hmm. Because we can hear so much doomsday stuff. Oh, they're never going to release all the freedoms. And you know what this is going to bring? There's going to be so many controls stuck upon us and stuff. Let's not talk it into existence.
Yeah.
Let's be the opposing voice to all that doomsday stuff and actually say what God says. We are victorious. We are more than conquerors. Let's start talking it. Don't let the world narrate your story.
That's right.
You hold the pen. Let's be a little bit cheesy to end the evening.
We got loads of hashtags tonight. Hashtag value your enemy. Hashtag you hold the pen.
But it's true. Like, don't let the media, social media, the news, all of that, your friends even, people can... Wow. Guys, let us set the tone of society. That is what we are called to do.
Absolutely.
Let's be the voice that people have to respond to. Not us reacting to what's going on in the world, but let us be the voice and everyone's reacting to us.
Someone asked me a little while ago, how can you be so positive about this thing? And I don't think it was just because of wishful thinking or being... I nearly said because God. I didn't do that. But and it's not just me being positive or wishful thinking. It just doesn't fit my personality to be told this bad news and just consume it as if it's true. If there's so much bad news, there's something cooking there. So I responded like this. I said, when my dad was young, what he used to do is put a net down the river, right? And then go up the river and start banging the surface of the river so the fish would run away into the net. And I said, that's what's happening right now. That's what my personality is. I don't want to see that. I think that I'm being told lies.
Although, it is real. Coronavirus is real.
Please
we're not taking away from that.
I'm just denying that it's a reality.
And
what I'm saying is there's so much bad news.
You're not being unsympathetic to those that have been affected.
But the reality for me, when I see it, I think, no, there's something cooking. There's too many people trying to force me to think a certain kind of way. That's what I mean.
Also, I think if we look at the news that is going on like separate to Corona, there is a lot going on politically, socially. There is so much going on, and sometimes these things can be a distraction, so other things can slip in under the radar. So guys, have a big world view. Don't just definitely. Yes, find out about God, yes, find out about coronavirus, all of that, but look all around at what's going on. There is so much going on that probably would be quite controversial for us to discuss now. However, there is so much going on, but let us be the voice.
That's right.
Let us be the voice that is determining the narrative of society.
And with that, though, appreciate that this is a wonderful world. It really
It
is.
is. Well, we're in it. Hello, guys.
Nice
Are you?
one. Nice one.
Yeah, exactly. Are you a good person that God has changed? Are you someone that God is going to use?
There you go.
If you're here, the world around you is a much better place. Wonderful. So,
because of the touch of the Lord in your life.
Exactly.
For the record, let's get that one out of the way.
well, yeah.
But
I mean, the world without humans would be kind of boring, though, just generally. But yes, God in us is the hope of glory. So if you have God within you, you have this hope. You can be a little
and that's
change.
the hope for the people around you.
Exactly. So yeah, the world is wonderful because you are here. If I had the camera, I could zoom in and be like, make America great again.
Wow.
Told you I was going to slip it in. That was early bingo. No, we don't do bingo. I've lost my train of thought. The world is wonderful because you are here and
That's
God
right.
is within you. So let the narrative be what God is saying, not
right.
what all
That's
the
right.
other distracting voices are saying. And look here and look there and clap for the NHS and do this and do that. What is God saying? And let that be the voice that is being projected. Don't listen to all the doomsday stuff. Well, do listen to it, but don't let it become an obsession. Don't talk those things into existence.
That's right.
Who is more powerful, the media or God?
I'm going to go with God if I'm honest.
I think that's the correct answer. 5
Yeah.
points to you.
Thank you.
Well done. So God is more powerful than the media. The media may be filling us with all this stuff. You can listen, but you don't have to accept it. Let God's voice be the defining voice. And you are his mouthpiece. We're here. Love God. Love people.
That's right.
Be the conduit.
That's right. Take care and trust God. There's another
Yeah.
hashtag for you. So, what would we say? Anybody that is new, and I hope you've enjoyed what you've seen tonight. We can be found at WVfC London and on Facebook, World Vision for Christ. If you search that, please.
I'm going to go and...
Get ready.
Good night,
Please
everyone. Thank you for having me.
Like, share, subscribe, comment in the actual comment below, as well as the chat. Thank you for responding in the chat. That's been great. It's been helpful to have some feedback. And I'd say good night. God bless you. And I hope that we meet again soon. Take care.